Disclaimer. What lies ahead is raw and merciless. Tonight, we step into the abyss of human cruelty. On the cold morning of November 15, 2004, in Del Mar, New York, Peter Porco, a 52-year-old court clerk, lay sleeping in his suburban home on Broccoli Drive, unaware that his own son, Christopher Porco, was creeping through the house with an axe. Peter, born in 1952, was a respected figure in Bethlehem, a quiet town near Albany, his days spent managing records at the Albany County Courthouse, his evenings filled with family dinners and golf games. He and his wife, Joan, a speech pathologist, had lived in their modest two-story home for years, raising two sons, Christopher and John. Christopher, 21st, was a junior at the University of Rochester, a charming but troubled kid with a history of lies, forging checks, stealing laptops, and racking up $16,000 in credit card debt his parents didn't know about. His clean-cut look, blonde hair, blue eyes, and a bright smile hid a growing desperation. Peter had recently confronted him about his failing grades and lies about a job, threatening to cut him off financially, a decision that sparked rage in Christopher, who saw his comfortable life slipping away. That night, Christopher drove 230 miles from Rochester to Del Mar in his yellow Jeep Wrangler. Arriving around 2:00 a.m., he'd planned the attack for weeks, knowing his parents' routine, Peter's early mornings, Joan's habit of sleeping lightly. He parked a block away, avoiding the driveway's motion sensor lights, and used a hidden key to slip into the house, his sneakers silent on the hardwood. In the garage, he grabbed a rusty fire axe, its blade dull but heavy, and climbed the stairs to his parents' bedroom. The house was dark, the only sound Peter's soft snores. Christopher stood over his father, gripping the axe, his heart pounding. He raised it high and swung, the blade crashing into Peter's skull with a sickening crunch. Bone splitting, blood spraying across the pillow, Peter's body jerking in shock. The first blow cracked his forehead, blood gushing down his face, but he didn't die. Christopher swung again, the axe biting into Peter's temple, brain matter oozing, the bedsheet soaking red. Peter moaned, still alive, his hands twitching as blood pooled in his mouth. Christopher turned to Joan, 54, who stirred, half awake, her eyes widening in terror as she saw her son. He swung the axe at her head, the blade slicing her scalp, blood pouring down her face, her screams muffled as another blow shattered her jaw, teeth scattering like pebbles. She collapsed, unconscious, blood dripping onto the carpet, her breathing shallow but steady. Christopher, sweating, his hands slick with blood, didn't stop. He hacked at Peter's head again, the axe embedding in his skull, bone fragments flying, blood splattering the walls like paint. Peter's face was unrecognizable, one eye destroyed, the other staring blankly, his body still as death finally took him. Joan, barely alive, lay in a pool of her own blood, her face a mess of gashes, her scalp torn open, brain exposed. Christopher thought she was dead too, his plan to kill both parents complete. His plan to kill both parents complete. He fled the house, wiping the axe on a towel, tossing it in the garage, and drove back to Rochester, arriving at his dorm by 5:00 a.m., acting as if nothing happened. But Joan survived, her pulse weak, her body fighting despite 16 axe wounds. At 7:00 a.m., a neighbor, walking his dog, noticed the porco's front door ajar, newspapers piling up. He called 911, and police found a bloodbath. Peter dead on the bed, his skull split open, brain matter spilling onto the pillow, blood soaking the mattress. Joan, miraculously alive, was rushed to Albany Medical Center, her face unrecognizable, one eye gone, her jaw hanging loose, blood caking her hair. The scene was a nightmare, the bedroom a slaughterhouse. Blood painted the walls, dripped from the ceiling, and pooled on the floor, the metallic smell thick in the air. Peter's body was cold, his head nearly cleaved in half, 32 axe wounds tearing through his scalp, face, and neck, his brain pulverized, bone shards embedded in the bed. Joan, in critical condition, clung to life, her skull fractured, her face a patchwork of cuts, her left eye destroyed, her speech slurred from brain damage. Detectives from the Bethlehem Police Department were stunned. This wasn't a random burglary. The precision of the attack screamed personal rage. They found no forced entry, the hidden key missing, and the alarm system disabled. Something only a family member would know how to do. Suspicion fell on Christopher, his financial troubles, and recent fight with Peter raising red flag. His Jeep was spotted on a neighbor's security camera near Broccoli Drive at 2:30 a.m., its yellow paint unmistakable. Police questioned him in Rochester, his alibi shaky. He claimed he slept in his dorm lounge, but friends saw him leave at midnight. His cool demeanor cracked, his hands fidgeting, his story unraveling as detectives pressed him. Christopher's descent into murder was fueled by entitlement and fear. He'd lived a charmed life, private schools, family vacations, but his lies caught up with him. He forged his dad's signature to get a $31,000 Jeep loan, sold stolen electronics online, and lied about a summer internship to keep his parents' money flowing. Peter's threat to stop paying his tuition, demanding he transfer to a community college, pushed Christopher over the edge. He saw his parents as obstacles to his lifestyle, their deaths a way to inherit their $500,000 estate and life insurance. The axe, chosen from the garage, was a weapon of opportunity, its weight perfect for delivering brutal force. He planned to make it look like a robbery gone wrong, leaving the door open, but his inexperience showed. No valuables were taken, the house untouched except for the blood-soaked bedroom. His explicit brutality was chilling, hacking his parents' heads, each swing tearing flesh and bone, blood spraying as he grunted with effort, his rage pouring out with every blow. He aimed to kill quickly, but Peter's resilience and Joan's survival exposed his sloppy execution. The investigation moved fast. Police traced the Jeep's movements, confirming Christopher's late-night drive. They found blood specks on his sneakers, too small for DNA testing, but suspicious. Joan, recovering slowly, initially defended her son, her brain damage clouding her memory, but later told nurses she saw Christopher in the bedroom, his face twisted with anger as he swung the axe. Her testimony was shaky. Her injuries made her unreliable in court, but it pointed detectives to the truth. Christopher's friends revealed his lies about his grades and debts, painting a picture of a desperate young man. The axe, found in the garage, had traces of Peter's blood, its handle wiped but not thoroughly. Prosecutors built a case on circumstantial evidence: Christopher's motive, his presence in Del Mar, the disabled alarm, and the key. Arrested November 30th, 2004. He sat smug in custody, denying everything, his charm useless against the mounting proof. Christopher's evasion was short-lived. He tried to maintain his innocent college kid act, telling classmates he was framed, but the evidence was overwhelming. His trial began August 2, 2006, in Albany County Court, a media circus drawing crowd. Prosecutors detailed the gore: Peter's skull shattered, 32 wounds exposing his brain, blood pooling 2 inches deep on the bed. Joan's survival was a miracle, her 16 wounds leaving her disfigured, her speech halting. Yet she testified, her voice trembling, saying she couldn't believe her son did this, but remembered his silhouette in the dark. The defense argued a stranger broke in, pointing to the open door, but no fingerprints or DNA supported their claim. The Jeep's timeline, Christopher's lies, and his financial motive sealed his fate. On December 12, 2006, he was convicted of second-degree murder for Peter and attempted murder for Joan, sentenced to 50 years to life at Clinton Correctional Facility. At 23, his boyish face hardened. He showed no remorse, smirking as the judge spoke, Joan weeping in the courtroom, her scars a daily reminder of her son's betrayal. The Porco family was destroyed. Joan, permanently disabled, moved to a care facility, her speech slow, her face scarred, her love for Christopher torn between denial and grief. John, the older son, cut ties with his brother, rebuilding a quiet life far from Del Mar. Bethlehem's residents locked their doors, the suburban calm shattered, the idea of a son killing his father unthinkable. Peter's coworkers mourned him, his desk at the courthouse left empty, his golf clubs gathering dust. The case, covered by Dateline in 48 hours, sparked debates about family dysfunction and privilege, Christopher's entitlement a warning to parents. Relief came with his conviction, but unease lingered. How could a son turn so monstrous? His axe swings fueled by greed. Del Mar's quiet streets now held a shadow, trust broken in a town once safe. Once safe! As rain falls softly, the bloodstains fade on Broccoli Drive, a father's life erased. But another killer lurks, plotting in the silence of a new home. On a warm Sunday evening, August 4, 2002, in the quiet village of Soham, Cambridgeshire, 10-year-old best friends, Holly Wells and Jessica Chapman, giggled as they left Holly's family barbecue on Red House Gardens. Both girls, born in 1991, were inseparable, their friendship forged at St. Andrew's Primary School, where they shared a love for Manchester United, their bright red replica jerseys flashing in the sun. Holly, with blonde hair and a shy smile, and Jessica, tanned with shoulder-length brown hair, were slim, barely 4 feet 6 inches tall, their laughter echoing as they slipped out at 6:15 p.m. to buy sweets from a vending machine near Soham Village College, a photo taken at 5:09 p.m. by Holly's mom, Nicola, showed them beaming, arms around each other, unaware of the horror waiting just minutes away. They walked past the college, their sneakers crunching on the gravel path, and approached the home of Ian Huntley, a 28-year-old school caretaker who lived in a cottage on college grounds with his girlfriend, Maxine Carr, a teaching assistant at their school. Huntley, Born January 31st, 1974, in Grimsby, England, was a tall, lean man with dark hair and a quiet demeanor, but his past hid a string of sexual assault allegations, none leading to convictions, allowing him to slip into a job around children. Huntley spotted the girls from his doorstep. Recognizing them from Maxine's stories about her class, he called out, his voice friendly, claiming Maxine was inside, knowing she was actually in Grimsby visiting family. Holly and Jessica, trusting him as the caretaker and Maxine's boyfriend, followed him into the house, their red shirts bright in the dim hallway. The door closed behind them, and within minutes, Huntley's calm facade vanished. He lured them upstairs, likely with a promise of games or snacks, his intentions dark. In the bathroom, he attacked, grabbing Jessica first, his hands clamping around her throat, squeezing hard, her small body thrashing as she gasped for air, her eyes wide with terror, her fingers clawing at his wrist. Her face turned red, then blue, her body going limp as he choked the life out of her, her legs twitching one last time before she collapsed, dead on the cold tiles, her red jersey crumpled. Holly screamed, backing into a corner, but Huntley turned on her, his hands wrapping around her neck, his grip tight, her blonde hair tangling as she fought, kicking and sobbing, her lungs burning for breath. Her small frame shook, her eyes bulging, until she too went still, her body slumping beside Jessica's, both girls lifeless, their faces frozen in fear, blood pooling from minor cuts where they'd struggled. Huntley stood over their bodies, his breath heavy, sweat dripping down his face. The explicit horror of his act filled the small bathroom. Two little girls, their red shirts stained with sweat and blood, their necks bruised purple, eyes staring blankly. He dragged their bodies downstairs, their limp arms trailing, leaving smears of blood on the floor. In the living room, he wrapped them in a blanket, their small forms tangled together, and carried them to his red Ford Fiesta parked outside. The night was dark, no neighbors watching as he shoved the girls into the trunk, their bodies folded awkwardly, Holly's head pressed against Jessica's shoulder. He drove 10 miles to a remote ditch near Lakenheath in Suffolk, a spot he knew from walks, the road empty under the stars. At the ditch overgrown with nettles, he dumped their bodies, pouring petrol from a can he kept in his car. He struck a match, the flames catching fast, licking at their red jerseys, the fire charring their skin, blackening their hair, the smell of burning flesh thick in the air. The blaze wasn't enough to destroy them completely. Their bodies, partially burned, lay side by side, Holly's arm draped over Jessica, their faces unrecognizable, the ditch a shallow grave under the moonlight. Huntley drove back to Soham, his hands shaking but his mind racing to cover his tracks. He cleaned the house, scrubbing blood from the bathroom tiles, the water turning pink as he mopped, tossing the blanket into a bin at the college. He burned his clothes in a barrel behind the cottage, the smoke curling into the night, and replaced his car's tires to hide any dirt from the ditch. Maxine returned the next day, unaware of the murders, and Huntley spun a lie, saying the girls had stopped by but left happy. When Holly's mom called at 8:00 p.m., unable to find the girls, panic spread. By 9:55 p.m., their parents reported them missing, and Cambridgeshire police launched a massive search, one of the largest in British history. Over 400 officers scoured Soham, volunteers combed fields, and U.S. Air Force personnel from nearby bases joined in, their boots trudging through marshes. Flyers with the girl's photo, smiling in their red jerseys, covered the town, their description broadcast nationwide. White, slim, 4 feet 6 inches, last seen at 6:30 p.m. Witnesses came forward. Mark Tuck saw them on Sand Street at 6:30 p.m., saying, "Look, 2 little Beckhams," to his wife. Karen Greenwood saw them arm in arm on College Road minutes later. A woman in Little Thetford claimed she saw them the next morning, but it was a false lead, the trail cold. Huntley inserted himself into the search, a chilling act of deception. He approached police, saying he'd seen the girls on his doorstep, claiming they seemed fine, his voice steady but his eyes darting. He spoke to journalists, his face on BBC News, repeating his story, his eagerness suspicious. Maxine, believing him, backed his alibi, telling reporters they were home together, unaware she was lying to protect a killer. Huntley's odd behavior, calling police daily, lingering at search sites, drew attention. Reporters tipped off detectives, noting his nervous chatter, and people from his past in Grimsby called police, revealing his history of sexual misconduct allegations, which hadn't shown up in his school job vetting. On August 16, police interviewed Huntley and Maxine for 7 hours, their stories wavering. The next day, August 17, farm worker Keith Pryor stumbled on the girls' bodies in the Lakenheath ditch, lying side by side, charred and decomposed, nettles growing through their remains. The sight broke him. He vomited, calling 911, his voice shaking. Forensic botanist Patricia Wiltshire examined the scene, finding nettles with new shoots, indicating recent disturbance, and soil on Huntley's old tires, which he'd swapped, matched the ditch. Fibers from his car trunk, red like the girls' jerseys, and hairs matching Jessica's sealed his fate. The explicit brutality shocked Britain. 2 10-year-olds, lured by a trusted caretaker, strangled in his home, their bodies burned to erase evidence, left in a ditch like trash. Huntley's motive was sexual, his history of targeting young girls pointing to a predator who acted on impulse when he saw Holly and Jessica pass by. His plan to destroy their bodies failed. The fire left enough for autopsies, showing strangulation, their necks crushed, small cuts from their fight for life. Police arrested Huntley and Maxine on August 17, charging him with murder, her with perverting the course of justice for her false alibi. Huntley was held at Rampton Secure Hospital for a mental health check, his demeanor calm, but his lies crumbling. Maxine, at Holloway Prison, wrote him love letters, still believing him, until December 2002, when she cut contact, realizing his guilt. The trial began November 3, 2003, at the Old Bailey in London. Prosecutors detailed the murders, Huntley's hands on their throats, the girls' desperate struggles, their bodies burned, the ditch their grave. He claimed it was an accident, saying Jessica had a nosebleed, and he drowned them in a panic. But forensic evidence, bruises, fibers, no water in their lungs, proved he lied. Maxine admitted lying to protect him, not knowing he'd killed. On December 17, 2003, Huntley was convicted of both murders, sentenced to 2 life terms, with a 40-year minimum, his face blank as the verdict came. Maxine got 3.5 years for her false alibi, released in 2004 under a new identity. Soham was shattered. The girls' families broken. Holly's parents, Kevin and Nicola, and Jessica's, Leslie and Sharon, buried their daughters in private ceremonies, their graves adorned with flowers, and the community held vigils, candles glowing in St. Andrew's Church. But trust was gone. Parents kept kids indoors, the college a reminder of betrayal. The Bechard Inquiry of 2004 exposed vetting failures. Huntley's past ignored when he was hired, leading to the Disclosure and Barring Service, DBS, to protect kids. Huntley, now 51, remains in Franklin Prison, attacked repeatedly by inmates, his throat slashed in 2010, his life a target for killing children. Maxine, free but hidden, lives under a new name, her role debated, foolish, not evil, but complicit in shielding a monster. The case, covered by BBC, The Guardian, and documentaries like Soham, 10 years on, changed Britain, tightening child safety laws. But the pain lingers. Holly and Jessica's red jerseys, a haunting image of lost innocence. As rain falls softly, Soham streets stay quiet. 2 girls' laughter silenced. But another predator watches, waiting in a new town's shadows. The night of March 11, 2011, was quiet in Bethesda, Maryland, a wealthy suburb outside Washington, D.C. The Lululemon Athletica store on Bethesda Avenue, with its sleek yoga gear and serene vibe, was closing up. Jana Murray, a 30-year-old manager, locked the front door at 9:45 p.m., her blonde hair pulled back, her Johns Hopkins MBA coursework waiting at home. She was vibrant, a former college gymnast who loved the store's fitness community, always chatting up customers about yoga classes. Beside her was Brittany Norwood, 28, a co-worker with a bright smile but a hidden edge. Brittany, a former college soccer player from Washington State, had a history of small thefts, jewelry from friends, cash from roommates, but no one at Lululemon knew. The 2 women did a routine bag check, a store policy to catch shoplifters. Jana found a pair of $98 yoga pants in Brittany's bag, unstamped, unpaid for. "This isn't yours," Jana said, her tone firm but calm. She called their manager, Rachel Ortley, who was already home. Rachel said she'd handle it tomorrow. Brittany, nervous, left the store, her heart pounding. Minutes later, Brittany called Jana, her voice shaky. "I forgot my wallet inside. Can you let me back in?" Jana, ever helpful, agreed, unlocking the door at 10:05 p.m., as shown by the alarm records. Inside, the store was dim, racks of leggings and sports bras casting shadows. Brittany, now alone with Jana, snapped. The confrontation over the stolen pants had humiliated her, and she feared losing her job. She grabbed a hammer from a store toolkit, swinging it at Jana's head. Jana stumbled, blood dripping from her temple, but fought back, scratching at Brittany's arms. "Stop! What are you doing?" Jana screamed, her voice echoing through the empty store. Brittany didn't stop. She grabbed a box cutter, then a knife, slashing Jana's face and neck. A rope from a display went around Jana's throat, tightening until she gasped. A metal merchandise peg became a club, cracking Jana's skull. The attack lasted 15 minutes. Jana suffering 331 wounds, 107 defensive cuts on her hands and arms, her spinal cord severed, her face unrecognizable. She was alive for most of it, her screams heard through the wall by two Apple Store employees next door, Jana Sferzo and Ricardo Rios, who dismissed it as drama. Brittany, panting, stood over Jana's body in a back hallway, blood pooling on the hardwood. She knew she had to cover it up. She drove Jana's black Toyota Camry 3 blocks to a parking lot, her hands slick with blood on the steering wheel. For 90 minutes, she sat in the car, plotting. Back at the store, she staged a robbery. She tossed cash from the registers, $600, onto the floor, scattered clothes, and tipped over mannequin. She slipped on size 14 men's Reebok sneakers from a display, stomping through Jana's blood to leave large footprints, suggesting a male attacker. With a box cutter, she cut her own forehead, letting blood drip straight down, and sliced a hole in Jana's pants to fake a sexual assault. She tied her own wrists and ankles with zip ties loosely and lay in the bathroom practicing moans. By 1 a.m., the store was silent, Brittany waiting for morning. At 8 a.m. on March 12th, Rachel Ortley arrived to open the store. The unlocked door startled her. Inside, she saw chaos. Clothes everywhere. Blood smeared on walls. Blood smeared on walls. She heard moans from the bathroom and, terrified, ran outside, asking a passerby, Ryan Hoff, to help. Ryan found Jana face down in the hallway, dead, her blonde hair matted with blood, a rope still around her neck. In the bathroom, Brittany lay curled up, zip ties loose on her wrists, blood on her face from a shallow cut. "Help me," she whispered. Police and paramedics swarmed the scene. Brittany, taken to suburban hospital, told Detective Dimitri Rubin a wild story. Two masked men in ski masks, one tall, one short, had burst in after closing, robbed the store, raped both women, and killed Jane. "They called me names, said I was more fun." She sobbed. Reuven, a seasoned cop, nodded but felt a prickle of doubt. Jana's body told a different story. 331 wounds, far beyond a robbery gone wrong. The investigation moved fast. Forensic expert David McGill testified Jana's injuries came from 5 weapons: a hammer, knife, box cutter, rope, and merchandise peg, all from the store. No outside weapons suggested an inside job. Brittany's cuts were superficial, her blood dripping straight down, not smeared as if she'd lain tied up all night. No semen or DNA supported her rape claim, and the hole in Jana's pants was clean, not torn. Bloody footprints from the Reebok sneakers stopped short of the exits, odd for fleeing attackers. Brittany's blood was on Jana's car, door handle, gear shift, steering wheel, yet she swore she'd never touched it. Apple Store employees admitted hearing screams and arguing, one voice crying, "God help me, please," for 9 minutes, yet they did nothing. Surveillance from the Apple Store showed Jana and Ricardo by the wall, then walking away, a guard nearby listening to music. Montgomery County Police Chief J. Thomas Manger, furious, called their inaction callous. By March 16th, Brittany's story crumbled. In her 4th interview, she admitted moving Jana's car, claiming the attackers ordered her to, saying they knew where she lived. "Why not drive to a cop?" Reuben pressed. "I was scared," Brittany mumbled. Her lies piled up. She'd stolen before, from college roommates and a salon job, and had a juvenile theft record. On March 18, police arrested her for first-degree murder. The community, glued to the Washington Post and NBC Washington, was stunned. Bethesda, with its low crime rate and $200,000 median incomes, felt betrayed. Jana, a fearless woman, as her father David Murray told ABC News, was mourned at a closed-casket funeral, her body too ravaged for viewing. Her brother Hugh, a Marine, spoke of her courage, while her mother, Phyllis, begged for justice. Brittany's trial began October 24, 2011, in Montgomery County Circuit Court. Prosecutor John McCarthy laid out the evidence. Jana caught Brittany stealing, threatened her job, and Brittany planned the murder, luring her back. The 331 wounds, McCarthy argued, showed premeditation. You don't hit someone 300 times by accident. Brittany's lawyer, Douglas Wood, admitted she killed Jana, but claimed it wasn't planned. Just a fight that spiraled. She lost control, he said, pushing for second-degree murder. The jury, after hearing from 40 witnesses, including forensic experts and Apple Store staff, deliberated 1 hour. On November 10th, they convicted Brittany of first-degree murder. At sentencing on January 27, 2012, Judge Robert Greenberg called it one of the most brutal crimes he'd seen, sentencing her to life without parole. Jana's family spoke through tears, her sister Amy saying they were shadows of themselves, her brother Dirk burning letters to Jana in heaven. Greenberg slammed the Apple employees' callous indifference, noting Hugh's pain. We were raised to help. Brittany, now 42, sits in Maryland Correctional Institute for Women in Jessup. Her appeals denied in 2015. Her motive for the yoga store murder by Dan Morse was fear of shame. She'd been a golden child at Kent Lake High with college scholarships, but her lies and thefts caught up. Stealing pants wasn't worth murder, but her fragile ego couldn't take exposure. Bethesda's Lululemon stayed open, but customers avoided it, shuddering at the blood-soaked hallway. The case, dubbed the Lululemon murder, hit true crime shows like Snap 2012 and Case File 2021, gripping viewers. A Reddit thread on true crime discussion called it mind-boggling, killing over leggings. Killing over leggings. Slate noted, random murders are rare. This was personal, born of resentment. Jana's family pushed for stricter workplace safety, but Lululemon's no-intervention shoplifting policy, tightened post-murder, drew criticism online. The store's serene facade hid a truth. Even in safe suburbs, rage could explode. Across the country, another workplace turned deadly, not over theft, but a grudge held too long. On the warm June evening of June 23, 1984, in Orinda, California, kids stayed out late, riding their bikes beneath the streetlight. Kirsten Costas, a 15-year-old sophomore at Miramonte High School, was at home, her curly brown hair tied back, wearing a light blue sweater and jeans. She was everything a small-town teen dreamed of: being popular, pretty, on the varsity swim team, and a cheerleader for the upcoming school year. Her parents, Arthur and Barrett Costas, lived in a neat 2-story house with a manicured lawn, the kind of place that screams success in the affluent suburb. That night, Kirsten got a call from her classmate, Bernadette Prati, also 15, about a secret Bobolinks dinner, a sorority-like volunteer group both girls were part of. Bernadette, quieter, less polished, with straight blonde hair, and a middle-class background, said she'd pick Kirsten up. She told her parents she was babysitting, borrowing their beige Pinto. 2 days earlier, she'd called Barrett anonymously, stressing the dinner was a surprise, and to make sure Kirsten was ready, but not to tell her. Kirsten, trusting, left with Bernadette, waving to her mom as she stepped into the car. They drove through Orinda's oak-lined streets, but no dinner was waiting. Bernadette had lied. There was no bobolinks event. She wanted to befriend Kirsten, to bask in her glow. But Kirsten, sensing something off, got annoyed when Bernadette admitted the truth. "Why would you lie about this?" Kirsten snapped, her voice sharp. They argued in the car, parked in an empty lot near Moraga. Kirsten, frustrated, got out, walking to a nearby house owned by Alex and Mary Jane Arnold. She knocked, breathless, telling them, "My friend's acting weird. I need to call my parents." Alex, a kind-faced man in his 40s, tried calling the Costas' home, but no one answered. Barrett was at a potluck for Kirsten's brother, Peter. Alex offered to drive Kirsten home, a short trip to her street, Minor Road. A short trip to her street, Minor Road. As they pulled up, he noticed the Pinto trailing them, its headlights dim in the dusk. Bernadette, gripping the wheel, followed close. At the Costa's house, Kirsten stepped out, banking out. He stayed in his car, watching her walk toward the front door. Then, in the shadows, he saw a figure, Bernadette, holding an 18-inch chef's knife. Alex thought it was a fist fight at first, but Bernadette lunged, stabbing Kirsten 5 times in the chest and back. Blood soaked Kirsten's sweater as she staggered across the street to another neighbor's porch, collapsing, gasping for help. Bernadette fled in the Pinto, tires screeching. The neighbors, hearing screams, called 911, but Kirsten, bleeding heavily, died at Alta Bates Hospital an hour later. Alex, shaken, told Contra Costa County Sheriff's deputies he saw a chunky, stringy-haired girl attack Kirsten. Orinda, a safe haven of 16,000, was thrown into chaos. Rumors spread like wildfire. Parents locked doors. Kids whispered about a maniac on the loose. The San Francisco Examiner ran headlines, teen cheerleader slain on doorstep, fueling fear of a random killer. The police, led by Sheriff's Lieutenant Mike Bachman, combed the scene. No murder weapon was found, but tire tracks matched a Pinto. Kirsten's friends described her as witty, confident, maybe a bit sarcastic. She wasn't perfect. She teased classmates, including Bernadette, about not making the cheer squad or yearbook staff. Bernadette, from a less wealthy family, felt the sting of those rejections. She'd told friends, like Jessica Grant, she was crushed when she didn't make cheerleading, watching Kirsten shine. "I just wanted to be like her," she later told police, her voice flat. The Bobolinks, a civic group for popular girls, was another sore spot. Kirsten was in. Bernadette barely noticed. Her envy grew, festering into obsession. She'd scribbled in her diary about Kirsten's perfect life, her money, her looks, her ease in Orinda's elite circles. For 6 months, the case stumped investigators. They chased leads, setting up a 24-hour hotline that rang with tips. 300 calls, no breakthroughs. A classmate, Nancy Kane, a punk-styled girl who clashed with Kirsten's preppy crowd, was wrongly suspected. Teens taunted Nancy, calling her killer at school, her locker defaced with slurs. It was hell, she later told people. Bernadette, meanwhile, blended in, attending Kirsten's funeral at Lafayette Orinda Presbyterian Church, where 500 mourners packed the pews. She cried, hugged classmates, and passed a lie detector test, claiming she was babysitting that night. Oh, wow! But her alibi unraveled. A neighbor saw the Pinto near Minor Road, and Alex Arnold's description, blonde medium build, pointed to her. In December 1984, an FBI agent, profiling the case, pressed Bernadette in a tense interview. "We know it was you," he said. She broke, writing a confession to her mother. "I killed Kirsten. I didn't mean to, but I couldn't stop." Bernadette's letter detailed the night. She claimed she found the knife in her sister Virginia's car, used for cutting vegetables. "I just wanted to talk to her," she wrote, saying Kirsten called her weird and threatened to tell everyone. Virginia testified the knife was hers, but the Costas scoffed. Nobody slices tomatoes with an 18-inch blade in a car. They believed Bernadette planned the murder, luring Kirsten with intent. At her trial in March 1985, in Contra Costa County Juvenile Court, Bernadette, now 16, faced Judge Edward Merrill. Her taped confession played. "I lost for cheerleader, didn't get yearbook, didn't get the club. It hurt, and I couldn't change my looks or money or popularity." She sobbed, saying she feared Kirsten would ruin her socially. The prosecution, led by John Oda, argued premeditation, citing the fake call to Barrett. The defense, Charles James, claimed it was a spontaneous act sparked by Kirsten's taunts. Merrill ruled second-degree murder, sentencing her to the California Youth Authority for up to 9 years. Orinda reeled. Miramonte High, with its manicured campus and 99% graduation rate, felt tainted. Kirsten's friends left flowers at her locker. Her cheer uniform retired. The Costas, shattered, moved to Hawaii in 1986, unable to stay where their daughter died. Peter, their son, faded from public view. Bernadette's parents left Orinda too, their whereabouts vague. Nancy Kane, cleared but scarred, moved away, her family hounded by gossip. The town, once a postcard of suburban bliss, tightened curfews, parents eyeing strangers warily. The Oakland Tribune called Kirsten an all-American girl, her death exposing the dark side of teen clique. Blogs later buzzed with theories. Some called Kirsten a bully, others Bernadette a monster. A 1985 Los Angeles Times piece quoted her saying, "I couldn't live if people knew. I'd rather die." Bernadette served 7 years, paroled in June 1992 at 23. The Costas, outraged, told the Associated Press she got away with murder. She changed her name to Jeanette Butler, moved to Oklahoma, studied nursing, and later married, becoming Jeanette Tamanka in Oregon. Her new life, detailed in a 2000s blog, Bernadette Prati found, sparked outrage. How could a killer rebuild so easily? Kirsten's story hit screens in 1994, with A Friend to Die For, also Death of a Cheerleader, starring Tori Spelling as Stacy Lockwood, Kirsten, and Kelly Martin as Angela Del Vecchio, Bernadette. The NBC film, the year's highest-rated TV movie, painted Kirsten as a snob, Bernadette as a tragic loner, drawing criticism from the Costas for victim blaming. A 2019 Lifetime remake with Aubrey Peoples as Bridget Moretti, Bernadette, and Sarah Dugdale as Kelly Locke, Kirsten, softened Kirsten's portrayal but kept the story's core. Jealousy's deadly toll. Jealousy's deadly toll. Kelly Martin played an FBI agent, a nod to the original. Documentaries like Killer Kids and the 1980s, the deadliest decade, retold the case, cementing its place in true crime lore. The murder left scarred. Horrendous teens faced stricter rules. Cliques watched closely. Rolling Stone's Randall Sullivan wrote of the case's ripple, echoed in James Benning's 1987 film Landscape Suicide. Blogs debated Kirsten's character. Some, like a Click Americana commenter, claimed she was mean, but her friend Lori Johnston, in a 2020 Medium post, called her witty, kind, dismissing rumors. The knife, the fake dinner, the Pinto's trail, all pointed to premeditation, despite Bernadette's claim. Her confession, played on Investigation Discovery, chilled listeners. I just wanted her life. Orinda, once a haven, felt exposed. Is perfect lawns hiding teen rage? By 2025, the case still haunted, a cautionary tale of envy unchecked, etched in a town that couldn't forget. Across state lines, another killer's obsession turned deadly, driven not by envy, but by a need for control. On a warm afternoon in Tracy, California, March 27, 2009, 8-year-old Sandra Cantu bounced out of her family's trailer in Orchard Estates Mobile Home Park, her brown eyes bright with the joy of a spring day. Born February 23, 2001, Sandra was a lively second grader at Melville Jacobson Elementary, loved for her shy smile, braided hair, and obsession with Hannah Montana. She wore a pink Hello Kitty t-shirt, black leggings, and white sneakers, her small frame darting across the park's gravel paths to visit friends. The mobile home park, a close community of 150 trailers near Highway 205, hummed with kids playing, parents chatting, and dogs barking. Sandra knocked on a neighbor's door at 3:00 p.m., giggling as she played with a friend, then ran to another trailer, her backpack bouncing. A security camera caught her at 3:54 p.m., skipping near the park's entrance, her Hello Kitty and shirt glowing in the sunlight, unaware of the evil waiting nearby. When her mom, Maria Chavez, called her for dinner at 6:00 p.m., Sandra didn't come home. Maria's heart sank. Sandra's bike sat in the yard, her toys untouched. Neighbors joined the search, calling her name into the twilight. Flashlights sweeping the park, but Sandra was gone, leaving only fear and a chilling void. Sandra's life was full of simple happiness before that day. She lived in a crowded trailer with Maria, her stepdad, and 3 siblings, her room a shrine to high school musical posters and stuffed animals. She loved school, shining in math, and dreamed of singing like her pop idols, her high-pitched voice echoing through the trailer as she belted out songs. Maria, a hard-working single mom, trusted the park's safety, letting Sandra roam to friends' homes, the community a second family, where kids shared snacks and parents kept watch. But that trust blinded them to a monster hiding among them. Sandra's last moments were likely spent with someone familiar, her innocence making her easy prey. The Tracy Police Department launched a massive search, one of San Joaquin County's largest, with 60 officers, FBI agents, and volunteers scouring the park, nearby orchards, and dusty fields. Helicopters droned above, dogs sniffed along paths, Divers plunged into irrigation canals, their lights cutting through murky water, but no sign of Sandra appeared. Flyers with her photo, big brown eyes, gap-toothed smile, covered Tracy's lampposts. A $32,000 reward offered. Yet 10 days passed with no answers. The town wrapped in dread, parents hugging their kids tighter. The case's eerie hallmark was its silent precision. A little girl vanished in broad daylight from a busy park. No screams heard, no struggle seen, her absence like a ghost slipping away. The security footage showed Sandra skipping, her backpack swinging, then nothing. No witnesses, no dropped toys, no tire marks. Police suspected a local, someone Sandra knew, luring her without a fight, perhaps with candy or a promise of fun. Maria prayed nightly, clutching Sandra's teddy bear, her sobs shaking the trailer, while her stepdad pounded the streets, shouting Sandra's name. Theories swirled: a transient predator, a stranger in a van, or worse, a neighbor hiding evil behind a friendly face. The explicit horror was the betrayal. Orchard Estates, where kids played tag and parents shared coffee, now a place of suspicion, every smile questioned. Volunteers worked tirelessly, taping flyers, while TV crews flooded the park. Nancy Gracie blasting Sandra's story, amplifying Maria's raw pleas for her daughter's return. The community held vigils, candles flickering, but the silence gnawed, the park's sunny paths now shadowed by fear. On April 6, 2009, the nightmare deepened when two farmers draining an irrigation pond a mile from the park spotted a black suitcase floating in the murky water, its zipper rusted but sealed. Expecting trash, they dragged it to shore, prying it open, only to freeze in horror. Sandra's tiny body lay curled inside, her Jello kittying shirt soaked, her face pale, eyes closed like she was asleep, arms folded tightly, the suitcase her took. The farmers stumbled back, one vomiting, the other calling 911, his voice trembling. The autopsy revealed a sickening truth. Sandra had been sexually assaulted, her small body bruised from rough hands, wrists marked with rope burns, red and raw from struggling, her mouth likely gagged with tape to muffle her cries. She was suffocated, a plastic bag pressed over her face, her lungs burning as she fought for air, her body thrashing, legs kicking weakly, her hands clawing at the bag, tears streaming as her vision darkened, her heart slowing until it stopped. The pond's water erased DNA, no semen, no hairs, leaving only her broken body, her leggings torn, shirt bunched up as proof of the brutality. Police cordoned off the park, questioning every resident, their focus sharpening on those near Sandra's path that day. Suspicion fell on Melissa Huckabee, a 28-year-old Sunday school teacher living 5 trailers from Sandra's family. Born in 1981, Huckabee was a pastor's granddaughter, soft-spoken, with a 5-year-old daughter who played with Sandra, the girls laughing over dolls and Barbie movies. Huckabee seemed safe, always at Clover Road Baptist Church, teaching kids Bible stories. But her life was a mess. Divorced, bipolar, a history of shoplifting, and recent mental health hospitalizations. Her daughter was at a sleepover that day, leaving Huckabee alone in her trailer, her black Eddie Bauer suitcase missing. Police searched her home, April 10th, finding a roll of duct tape matching Sandra's wrist marks, a notebook with creepy entries about teaching kids lessons, and witnesses who saw Huckabee pacing nervously outside her trailer on March 27th. Her maroon Mercury Cougar parked oddly near the park's entrance. She claimed Sandra visited to play, then left, but her story crumbled. Her eyes darted. Her hands shook under questioning. The suitcase, traced to her through her grandfather's testimony, was damning. Its brand and size matched the one in the pond. Huckabee's fingerprints faint on the handle. Huckabee's descent into murder stemmed from a warped mind, her motives murky, but likely tied to jealousy or a sick need for power. Sandra's bright spirit, her closeness with Huckabee's daughter, may have sparked rage in a woman unraveling under mental illness and resentment. On March 27, Huckabee likely called Sandra over, offering cookies or a game, the girl's trust in her anti-absolute. Inside the trailer, Huckabee's darkness erupted. She tied Sandra's wrists with rope, the cords cutting into her skin, leaving red welts as Sandra squirmed, her small voice begging. The assault was brutal. Huckabee tore off Sandra's leggings, violating her, the child's body shaking with pain, her cries stifled by tape slapped across her mouth, her eyes wide with terror. To silence her, Huckabee suffocated her, likely with a trash bag from her kitchen, pressing it tight, Sandra's chest heaving, her nose and mouth sealed, her body jerking as air ran out, her face turning blue, tears pooling in her eyes as she faded. Huckabee stuffed Sandra's body into the suitcase, folding her knees to fit, the zipper snagging on the Hello Kitty shirt, then drove to the pond at dusk, tossing the case into the water, the splash quiet as it sank, the current hiding her crime. Huckabee's evasion was brief but chilling. She joined the search, her face wet with fake tears, hugging neighbors at vigils, her daughter on her hip, blending into the community's grief. She attended church, praying loudly while police watched her, noting her nervous tics. Her trailer search revealed the tape and notebook, but no DNA tied her directly. The water had erased evidence. Her car showed no blood, but neighbors saw her washing it that evening, water pooling on the gravel, her hands scrubbing frantically. Arrested April 10, 2009, Huckabee cried in custody, claiming Sandra wandered off, but her lies unraveled. She admitted Sandra was in her trailer, then changed her story, her voice shaking. Charged with murder, kidnapping, and sexual assault, she faced the death penalty, the community reeling that a Sunday school teacher could hide such evil, her wholesome facade a lie that shattered trust in the park. The unmasking came fast as evidence piled up, the suitcase, tape, notebook, and Huckabee's shifting stories painting a grim picture. At her arraignment, she sat pale, hands trembling, as prosecutors described the assault and suffocation, Maria collapsing in court, her screams echoing. Huckabee's defense blamed her bipolar disorder, but on May 10, 2010, she pleaded guilty to first-degree murder and kidnapping to avoid execution, admitting she drugged Sandra with sedatives, likely stolen from her own pills, to quiet her struggle. Sentenced June 14, 2010, to life without parole at Central California Women's Facility, Huckabee, then 29, showed no remorse, her face blank as the judge spoke. Sandra's family buried her in a Tracy cemetery, her grave covered with Hello Kitty toys and flowers. Maria's grief raw as she whispered, "My angel's gone." The case shocked Tracy, exposing how evil can hide in trusted faces, exposing how evil can hide in trusted faces, leaving parents to lock doors and watch their kids closer, the park's sunny paths now dark with suspicion. Relief came with Huckabee's conviction, but unease lingers. How did her darkness go unnoticed? Teaching kids Bible verses while plotting murder. As rain falls softly, the pond's ripples fade. A girl's laughter still, a girl's laughter still. But another child plays, unaware of danger and a trusted smile. On a cool morning in Auburn, Washington, June 11, 1986, Susan Snow, a 40-year-old bank manager, woke up with a throbbing headache. She stumbled to her bathroom, her slippers scuffing the linoleum, and reached for a bottle of extra-strength Extrin on the counter. The capsules were her go-to for pain, their red and white shells familiar in her hand. She swallowed two with a gulp of water, not knowing they were laced with potassium cyanide, a poison so deadly that a speck could kill. Within minutes, her chest tightened, her breath came in shallow gasps, and her vision blurred. She collapsed on the floor, her body convulsing, foam bubbling at her mouth, her eyes wide with panic as her heart raced, then slowed, then stopped. Her 15-year-old daughter, Haley, found her at 6:30 a.m., sprawled lifeless, the bottle of Excedrin open beside her, capsules scattered like candy. "Walt!" Haley screamed, her voice echoing through the quiet house. But it was too late. Susan was gone, her skin already cooling, the cyanide having burned through her system, shutting down her cells in a silent, brutal attack. Susan's death wasn't random, nor was it the first. The mastermind was Stella Nichol, a 43-year-old mother and wife living in Auburn, married to Bruce Nichol, a 52-year-old heavy equipment operator. Born August 6, 1943, Stella grew up in poverty in Oregon, her life marked by instability, multiple marriages, financial struggles, and a growing bitterness. She and Bruce lived in a modest trailer, their marriage strained by his drinking and her resentment. Stella worked odd jobs, including as a security guard, but dreamed of escape, her mind churning with plans to cash in on Bruce's $176,000 life insurance policy, enough to start over, maybe open a fish store, her obsession. But to make his death look random, she needed a bigger plan, one that would hide her crime in a wave of fear. She drew inspiration from the 1982 Chicago Tylenol murders, where 7 people died after taking cyanide-laced capsules, a case that panicked the nation and left no killer caught. Stella, cunning and cold, saw a way to copy it, poisoning strangers to mask her husband's murder, her plot as calculated as it was cruel. Stella's scheme began weeks earlier, in May 1986, when she bought extra-strength Extrin from local stores, Payless Drugs, Johnny's Market, and Albertsons in Auburn. In her trailer's cramped kitchen, she pried open the gelatin capsules, her fingers steady as she emptied the acetaminophen powder. She replaced it with potassium cyanide, a white, crystalline poison she'd gotten from her job at a security firm, where it was used in chemical testing. The cyanide, smelling faintly of bitter almonds, was deadly in tiny amounts, 65 milligrams, less than a pinch, enough to kill an adult in minutes. She mixed it carefully, wearing gloves to avoid breathing the dust, then resealed the capsules, her hands precise, the tampered bottles looking untouched. She drove to stores across Auburn, slipping the poisoned bottles onto shelves, her face calm as she blended into the crowd of shoppers. She targeted Excedrin because it was popular, like Tylenol in 1982, ensuring her victims would be random, their deaths untraceable to her. She placed 5 tainted bottles, each with a few poison capsules, knowing they'd kill whoever bought them, creating a pattern to hide her real target, Bruce. Susan Snow was the first to die. A mother of 2, she was well liked at Seattle First National Bank, her smile warm, her life busy with work and family. That June morning, after taking the Excedrin, the cyanide hit fast. It bound to her blood cells, starving them of oxygen, her body shutting down as she gasped, her face turning blue, her hands clawing at the air. Paramedics rushed to her home, finding Haley hysterical, Susan's body still warm but lifeless. The autopsy showed cyanide poisoning, her blood thick with the toxin, her organs burned from its attack. Police were baffled. Excedrin wasn't made with cyanide, and Susan had no enemies. They tested the open bottle from her bathroom, finding 3 capsules laced with enough cyanide to kill thousands. The lot number, 582, led to Payless Drugs, where Stella had placed one of her tampered bottles, but no one suspected a deliberate act yet, thinking it might be a factory error. Stella waited, watching the news, her plan unfolding. On June 15, 1986, Bruce Nickel complained of a headache after a long day operating machinery. Stella, playing the dutiful wife, handed him 2 Excedrin capsules from a bottle she'd kept at home. One she'd tampered with herself. Bruce, a burly man with a kind heart, trusted her, swallowing the pills with a sip of coffee. Within 10 minutes, he staggered, his breath short, his face pale. He collapsed in their trailer's living room, his body jerking, foam spilling from his mouth, his eyes fixed in a blank stare. Stella called 911 at 6:45 p.m., her voice trembling with fake panic, but Bruce was dead before paramedics arrived, his heart stopped by the cyanide's ruthless grip, his blood oxygen starved, his brain shutting off as he twitched on the floor. The autopsy confirmed cyanide poisoning, matching Susan's case, the same lot, number 582, found in their trailer. Stella played the grieving widow, tears streaming, but her mind was on the insurance money, her ticket out. The death sparked panic in Auburn. Police linked Susan and Bruce's cases to the Excedrin bottles, and on June 18th, the FDA issued a recall of Lot 582, pulling thousands of bottles from Washington stores. News spread fast, headlines screaming about poisoned painkillers, echoing the 1982 Chicago terror. Shoppers dumped Excedrin in trash cans, pharmacies locked up their stock, and hospitals flooded with calls from worried customers. The FBI joined the investigation, suspecting tampering like in Chicago, but the scale was smaller, 2 deaths, 1 lot number. They tested more bottles, finding 3 additional tampered ones at Johnny's Market and Albertsons, each with cyanide-laced capsules, all from Stella's handiwork. The explicit horror was the randomness. Anyone could have bought those bottles, their trust in a common medicine betrayed by a killer's cold calculation. Auburn's residents locked their doors, fear replacing the small-town calm, as police hunted for answers. Stella's plan seemed perfect, but cracks appeared. She reported finding a tampered bottle herself, calling the FDA on June 19th, claiming she'd bought a tainted X-Drin bottle at Johnny's Market. Her story was meant to deflect suspicion, making her seem like a concerned citizen, but it backfired. The FBI noticed her call came too soon after the deaths, her knowledge of the tampering too precise. They interviewed her, her answers vague. She said she found cyanide capsules, but couldn't explain how she knew to check. Her daughter, Cindy Hamilton, 27, grew suspicious, telling police Stella had talked about Bruce's insurance money before his death, even researching cyanide at the Auburn Library. Cindy, estranged from her mom, revealed Stella's history of lies, forging checks, stealing from employers, and her obsession with starting a new life. The FBI searched Stella's trailer, finding a bottle of cyanide crystals hidden in a bathroom cabinet, its bitter almond scent faint but unmistakable. They also found library books on poisons, pages dog-eared on cyanide, and receipts for Excedrin purchases from multiple stores. Stella's motive was greed, wrapped in a twisted need to escape her life. Bruce's drinking frustrated her, their fights loud, her resentment growing. The $176,000 insurance policy, with an extra $100,000 for accidental death, was her way out, but a single murder would point to her. By poisoning strangers first, she made Bruce's death look like part of a random spree, copying the Chicago killer's playbook. Susan Snow, a stranger, was collateral damage. Her death meant to muddy the investigation. Stella's method was meticulous. She chose cyanide because it killed fast, leaving no time for victims to seek help, their bodies racked with pain as the poison stopped their cells from breathing. She tampered with 5 bottles, placing them in 3 stores, ensuring enough deaths to create panic, but not so many to draw national scrutiny. Her calm demeanor as she planted the bottles, slipping them onto shelves, her face blank among shoppers, hid a mind-plotting murder with surgical precision. The investigation tightened around Stella. On December 9, 1986, the FBI arrested her, charging her with product tampering and murder. Her trailer was searched again, revealing more evidence: a magnifying glass for tampering capsules, gloves with cyanide traces, and a notebook with calculations for insurance payout. Cindy testified against her, describing Stella's cold comments about Bruce's accidental death and her plans to buy a fish store. The trial, starting April 20th, 1988, in Seattle's federal court, laid bare the horror. Prosecutors detailed how Susan Snow's body convulsed, her lungs failing as cyanide starved her of oxygen, her daughter's screams haunting the courtroom. Bruce's death was slower. He'd taken a smaller dose, his body fighting for 10 minutes, his hands clutching his chest, foam dripping as Stella watched, unmoved. The jury saw photos of the tampered capsules, cyanide crystals glinting inside, and heard how Stella's fingerprints were on the bottles, her library books marked with her intent. Stella's defense claimed she was framed, pointing to the Chicago case as proof of copycat killers, but the evidence crushed her life. The cyanide in her trailer matched the poison in the capsules. Her fingerprints tied her to the tampered bottles, and her daughter's testimony painted her as a calculating killer. On May 9, 1988, Stella was convicted of 2 counts of murder and 3 counts of product tampering. The jury, unmoved by her tears, sentenced to 90 years in prison, she sat stone-faced, her dreams of insurance money gone. Susan's family mourned, Haley haunted by finding her mom's body, while Bruce's relatives, including his sister, wept for a man killed by the wife he trusted. Auburn rebuilt slowly, the fear of poisoned medicine lingering, Excedrin sales plummeting, the town's trust shattered by Stella's betrayal. The case's legacy was lasting. Auburn Reed case's legacy was lasting. The FDA tightened regulations, mandating tamper-proof seals, foil lids, plastic wraps, and sealed boxes, now standard on all over-the-counter drugs. Congress passed the Federal Anti-Tampering Act in 1983, making product tampering a federal crime, spurred by the Chicago case, but reinforced by Stella's crimes. Her explicit evil, poisoning innocent people to mask her husband's murder, echoed the 1982 panic, but her conviction brought some closure, unlike the unsolved Chicago killings. Stella, now 82, remains at Dublin Federal Correctional Institution, her parole bids denied, her health failing. Auburn's residents still speak of the case in whispers, the memory of poisoned capsules chilling their trust in the medicine cabinet. As rain falls softly, the pharmacy shelves gleam with sealed bottles, a killer's shadow fading, but another poison stirs, hidden in a trusted hand. The morning of July 20th, 2015, was bright in Whitesboro, New York, a small town near Utica where everyone knew each other. Mary Yoder, 60, walked into her chiropractic family care clinic on Oriskany Boulevard, her usual bounce in her step. She was fit, with short blonde hair and a warm smile, known for her love of pottery, dancing, and healthy living. She ran the clinic with her husband, Bill Yoder, a chiropractor like her, and their son Adam, who managed the office. The place smelled of lavender oil, and patients loved Mary's gentle adjustments and her side business selling vitamins. That day, she wore a light green blouse and khakis, greeting patients with her signature warmth. Caitlin Conley, 23, the clinic's receptionist, was already there, her blonde hair tied back, her desk neat. She'd worked there for 4 years, hired through Adam, her on-again, off-again boyfriend since 2011. Their relationship was rocky. Adam, a heavy drinker, could be controlling, while Caitlin, from a big family in Sequoia, had a charm that hid her manipulative side. Around noon, Mary sipped her usual protein shake mixed with her vitamins left on her desk. She'd been fine all morning, chatting with a patient, Sharon Drow, about gardening, but by 2 p.m., her stomach churned. "Must be a bug," she told Caitlin, her face pale. She pushed through her appointments, but by 4:30 p.m., she was doubled over, vomiting in the clinic bathroom. Bill, working in the back, drove her home, where she spent the night throwing up, her body shaking. The next morning, July 21st, she was worse. Diarrhea, severe abdominal pain. Bill rushed her to Faxton St. Luke's Healthcare Center. Doctors, puzzled, ran tests, suspecting a virus. Mary's heart stopped 8 times that day, medics reviving her each time. Her 3 kids, Leanna, Tamarin, and Adam, raced to her bedside. She was responsive, fighting. Tamarin later told Dateline. She was responsive, fighting, Tamarin later told Dateline. But on July 22nd, Mary's organs failed. Her heart stopped again, and she died at 6:15 p.m., surrounded by her family, who were stunned. Healthy people don't just die. her sister Sharon Ann Mills said, tears streaming down her face. The autopsy gave no answers at first. Mary's organs looked like they'd been through chemotherapy, ravaged beyond her active lifestyle. Suspicion grew. Her death wasn't natural. By October 2015, lab results confirmed a lethal dose of colchicine, a gout drug, in her system, enough to kill her 15 times over. Mary didn't have gout, and the clinic didn't stock colchicine. The Oneida County Sheriff's Office, led by investigator Mark Van Neme, opened a murder investigation. They looked at Bill first. He'd started dating Mary's sister Kathleen months after her death, raising eyebrows. Too soon, whispered neighbors. Too soon, whispered neighbors. They checked his finances, suspecting a life insurance motive, but found nothing. Bill, a quiet man with a gray beard, swore he loved Mary, their 38-year marriage solid. Attention shifted to Adam, 26, after an anonymous letter arrived at the sheriff's office on November 23rd, claiming he killed his mom. The letter said a bottle of colchicine was under his Jeep's passenger seat. Deputies searched and found it. Adam's cigarette nearly falling from his mouth in shock. I didn't do this, he stammered. He'd been in Long Island visiting his sister Leanna when Mary got sick. 250 miles away, the letter's author became the focus. Caitlin, questioned in December, admitted writing it. Adam told me he did it, she claimed, her voice soft, eyes wide. She said she was scared of him, citing his temper and past abuse. But her story unraveled. Her iPhone, seized via a warrant, showed searches for poison and colchicine before Mary's death. A prepaid debit card, bought at Hannaford Supermarket, linked to her, was used to order the drug from a chemical company. The receipt listing Adam's name, but tied to an email with the password Adamiske. Caitlin's DNA was on the bottle's wrapper. She'd backed up her phone to Adam's laptop in August, leaving screenshots of poison articles. She set him up, prosecutor Lori Lisi told Oxygen. Caitlin's motive, Lisi argued, was revenge. Adam had dumped her for another woman in June 2015, and Caitlin, humiliated, wanted him to suffer. Poisoning his mom, framing him, was her plan. She'd even given Adam supplements earlier that year, making him sick with similar symptoms, vomiting, weakness, though he recovered. Caitlin was arrested in May 2016, charged with second-degree murder, forgery, and larceny. Her first trial, in April 2017, was a spectacle in Oneida County Court. Lori Lisi painted Caitlin as a scorned woman, saying she slipped colchicine into Mary's protein shake when no one was looking. Only Caitlin was with Mary that day, Lisi told the jury, noting the clinic's small staff. Caitlin's lawyer, Christopher Pelly, pointed at Bill, claiming he had motive, his new relationship, and an inheritance. He said, Bill knew colchicine from growing marijuana, where it's used to boost plant growth. Bill denied it, testifying his romance with Kathleen started after Mary's death. The jury, after 5 days, couldn't agree, ending in a mistrial. Caitlin, free on bail, returned to Sauquoy, her 7 sisters rallying around her, insisting she was innocent. She's not capable, her sister Sarah told Syracuse.com. The second trial, in November 2017, was uglier. New lawyer Frank Policelli focused on Adam, suggesting he was unstable. But the evidence, phone searches, the debit card, DNA, pinned Caitlin. Adam testified, his voice breaking. I hate myself for bringing her into Mom's life. He admitted their relationship was toxic. Caitlin once falsely claimed an ectopic pregnancy to guilt him back. The jury saw her post on Facebook the day after Mary's death. Dr. Mary, you were a light. I'm so lucky our paths crossed. Jurors found it chilling. After 3 days, they acquitted her of murder, but convicted her of first-degree manslaughter. On January 11, 2018, Judge Michael Dwyer sentenced her to 23 years, calling her act excruciating for Mary. Caitlin, in a gray sweater, cried, saying, "I'm innocent." Mary's daughters, Leanna and Tamarin, demanded the maximum, Tamarin saying, "Her heart stopped because of Caitlin." Bill echoed, "She murdered my wife to hurt my son." But Mary's sister, Janine King, believed Caitlin, begging for leniency. Whitesboro was split. Mary's clinic, once a community hub, closed. Bill moving to Brooklyn to practice alone. Caitlin's family launched a campaign claiming she was framed. A 2024 Hulu docuseries, Little Miss Innocent, featured Caitlin, now 31, in prison, insisting, "I didn't kill Mary." Her parents and sisters backed her, citing her charm and moral upbringing. But Tamarin, in the series, said, "I hope she never gets out." The case took a twist in January 2025, when a New York appellate court overturned Caitlin's conviction. The ruling, per NBC News, cited her first lawyer's failure to challenge the phone warrant, calling it facially insufficient. Caitlin was released in February 2025, pending a possible third trial. Oneida County, Da Todd Carville, as of August 2025, hasn't decided on retrying her. Caitlin, living quietly in Socoy, told Dateline, "The Yoders don't need closure from me." Adam, still in New York, carries guilt, telling Deck TV, "If I hadn't met her, Mom would be alive. Mary's death left scars." Her family avoids Whitesboro, her pottery wheel untouched in her old studio. The community, once tight-knit, whispers about the case, some believing Caitlin's innocence, others her guilt. Colchicine, a rare poison, became a grim topic at local diners. Bill, now with Kathleen, rarely speaks publicly, his grief private. The Yoder's clinic sign is gone, the building now a dental office. Caitlin's release stirred anger. Leanna told Syracuse.com, "Justice failed us. The case, covered on forensic files and killer motive, haunts Whitesboro, a reminder that love and hate can twist into something deadly." In a distant city, another act of vengeance unfolded, driven not by a lover's scorn, but by a family's greed.